Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Senior Vice President of Oracle, Lyle Ekdahl.
Whoa, welcome everybody to Collaborate 18, to our large community here, our partners, our customers. Boy, do we have a fantastic week planned for you. Lots of education and lots of networking. Now, how many of you were here for Collaborate 17? Okay, a fair number of you, yeah. So you probably remember what our key theme was, and that was how we use J.D. Edwards, specifically 9.2, as a platform to help you transform into a digital business. Now, digital business is agile, it's real time, it's collaborative, it's connected. Right? It's about removing paper and manual from the process. And of course, we've been doing that for years with automation. But with the new tools that are coming to the marketplace, the new technical capabilities, we can even do better now. It takes things to a new level. And what it does is it creates new forms of data along with your regular business data and process data. And you can utilize that data to improve your services as well as your products. And finally, what it does is it creates an overall digital mesh across the value chain that really connects us to our customers and our partners in a real-time way. Now, for J.D. Edwards, for 9.2, again, we've delivered new frameworks around personalization of the UI, around cloud-based services that allow us to collaborate or use documents. We've added the capability to allow you to mobilize, to take your J.D. Edwards to the point of process. And we've introduced things in automation through orchestrations. But how many of you are really using that? A year later, how many of you are using any of that? We know there are some of you that are. But the challenge that we proposed ourselves was, how do we push this community into the mainstream of the digital economy? So, for this year's Collaborate, we're going to do something a little different. Now, I know in the past, I've spent a lot of time on vision, and then we connect the product to the vision, and we have a little bit of mayhem along the way. Well, this year, some things we're not going to do. The first one is I'm not going to spend any time up here talking about our support timeframes. Yeah, we've moved those way out. You've got a great support runway. If you want to learn more about it, go to my Oracle support. The next thing we're not going to do in this session is we're not going to lay out the roadmap for you. Yes, we've got an incredible roadmap. In fact, we have a whole session dedicated to that roadmap at 1 o'clock that Bob and Gary will deliver. And the third thing we're not going to do in this part of the session is we're not going to go through feature by feature by feature on our latest releases. Again, that's what the whole conference is about, and certainly you can go to Learn JDE to find out more. No, what we're going to focus this year's session on is you. You as the folks that make the digital revolution happen. And how you're going to do that with the 9.2 platform, with our new frameworks. And so what I did is I challenged my team to come up with some issues, some sticky issues that they've seen in your businesses. I've challenged them with look at enhancement requests and see if there are ways that we could use the 9.2 platform without coding as much as possible to accomplish those enhancement requests. Because at the end of the day, we want to help you make it happen. You see, there's a parallel between what we're talking about here and what's going on in the general economy, something referred to as the maker movement. Now, you may have heard of Etsy or Quirky or these maker fairs they have, or even GE garages, where they get together using new design paradigms, right? Design thinking and agile development with new tools to create, to innovate, and to share. And so that's what we're going to do in today's session with my team that's going to help me up here. Okay? Sound good? So let's go ahead and get started. Before we do that, I know you love to take pictures. Please, you don't need to take pictures. We've actually posted a lot of content up on Learn JDE that you can get to right away. All the demonstrations we're going to show you have been completely spelled out in a business case. We've put a glossary of terms out there for you if you're not familiar with some of this stuff. We even have contacts from my team members where you can learn more, and a whole lot of other things, including links to the other sessions going on here at Collaborate that help reinforce what we're going to show up here today. So with that, now we can get started. So first, I want you to introduce to the stage, there she is, Angela Enyart, and she's going to walk us through, yeah, please. So what Angela is going to walk us through is what we call an ideathon to solution. Now, so let me lay this out for you a little bit. Now, ideathons were an idea that we had back in JD Edwards several years ago, and we actually do this quarterly for my team. And what they do is these are combining teams. They're self-directed, and they use these new agile technologies, again, design thinking, right, to try to solve some pesky problem. So we give them a whole week to go figure that out. Now, we talked to that about idea with Quest a couple years ago, and we've actually, in the last couple of Quest conferences, we've actually brought Ideathon to the community, okay? And in fact, last year at the Ideathon here for Collaborate, the winner was Little Rapids. And what Little Rapids did is they created a new online work order, it's basically a new set of forms or a form, where they combined different forms together, right, moved fields around. You guys have probably done some of this, right? Right, where you're actually changing the way the software looks to fit your process. Now, this was done, though, however, with our classic tools. And that's the way most of you do that today. The problem with that is it creates a friction between the business and IT. Limited IT resources, don't necessarily want to pre-configure a bunch of screens for all their different end users, and at the same time create barriers to taking patches or to upgrading. Right? So it creates that friction. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Angela, and why don't you tell us a little bit about what Little Rapids did and then how you approached the problem.
Sure. Thanks, Lyle. So again, we took a look at what Little Rapids created in more detail. We had some follow-up discussions with them after the event. And so basically what they created is this application that's designed for an operator who's working on the manufacturing line. There's a lot of information he needs. He's reporting progress on how he's completing the work order. And so prior to having this, it was difficult for the operator to keep everything up to date and get to the information he needed. So now the operator is much more efficient and the data is captured more accurately. So with all of the personalization frameworks that we've been delivering, especially over the last few years, me and some of our team got together and said, well, okay, how could we build something similar using that? So that's what we did. So let us show you what we came up with. So this is our version of the online work order. And so it starts off, with a Cafe One layout where we took existing JD Edwards applications and put it together into one screen. So up on the left is where you see our dispatch list. So again, if for our manufacturing customers are used to the dispatch list. So it provides me a list of the work orders that I'm supposed to be working on. I can view attachments, which have schematics. It might have a list of assembly instructions. Down here, I've got my parts list, and if you can see the red values here, I've got an availability problem. I'm going to have to figure out where I'm going to get these parts to be able to finish my work. And then the last piece I've got is Super Backflush, which again is our standard application where I can put in my completions and what I may have had to scrap. So again, these are the things that our manufacturing customers are used to using. However, you may not recognize it because we've done some other things to make the applications more personalized for the user. So let's dig into the dispatch list and look at a couple things here. So a couple of things off the bat. Our dispatch list doesn't include an item number that you can use for filtering. It also has several other fields that come with it. You may also wonder what this grid format is. It's a new list view grid format. So I made those different kinds of changes. So let's go and just go back to the with no changes made to it. And let's start with how I got this item number onto the form. There's a new framework that just came out in the last couple weeks called form extensions. And what I can do with that is go through the list of the business view columns that are available and add them to the screen. So that's what I did here with the item number. And here I can even go into the properties and define how I want it to behave as a filter. So now the item number is on the screen. And from there, I can use form personalization, which, it's been around for a little while. Hopefully, you all know about it. And so again, this is where I can remove fields that, I don't need to use, that just takes up space, adds clutter. I can move things around so it's more convenient. I can override the labels. A couple things that have been added to this framework is the ability to change the tab sequence. So now that I've removed things and moved them around, now I can make sure the user can get through those fields the best way possible. Something that is brand new is the ability to remove form and row exits. So for some of those applications where I've got that really long list of form and row exits, I can get rid of the ones that I don't use and just make the whole experience simpler for the user. So if we go back to the original form, again, we took each of these forms, simplified them using form personalization, used form extensions to add that additional filter, and then put it all together in a Cafe 1 layout. So I'm really sorry, but we're not going to ship this because it's not going to work for everybody. It's not exactly what you need. But that's the beauty of all of these personalization frameworks. You can make it your own. If you don't like that, you could replace the parts list with a scheduled work order operations. Or you can make it look like that, or like this. It's all up to you.
So Angela, you made this happen all based on these frameworks, and you didn't use any code? No code, low code?
No code.
Okay, tell us what we saw then. Just summarize in your own words real quickly what we saw.
Yeah, so what you saw is a better way to address the problems that end users have. And it's that IT dilemma of how do I make these simple types of UI changes without having to manage the customizations. So we use these no-code, low-code frameworks that are available today, and you can go home next week and start using them to make your users happier. I mean, this doesn't just apply to manufacturing or the operator on the manufacturing line. You could be a hero to several of the different heavy users of J.D. Edwards by creating these personalized experience, or put it in their hands to create it themselves.
So, Angela, what role do you play in my organization?
I work in your product management team.
Okay, so you're not a developer.
They don't let me touch the code anymore.
Right. And you did this all yourself?
I did, yeah. Okay,
fantastic. And now this is an area, what I would call sort of a class of issues, right? Mm-hmm. UI is a class of issues, and we have a lot of enhancement requests. Now, you're in product management, you're responsible for a part of the footprint. What kind of yield do you think we have here in terms of the enhancement requests that we get?
So my team and I, we looked at just the new feature for form extensions. And we looked at just a few product areas: sales, inventory, purchasing, manufacturing. And we looked at the enhancement requests and said, where are we getting requests to add a field to the form? It's just so simple, those types of requests. And we realized with this new form extension framework, there was about 10 enhancement requests that are taken care of now. You can do it yourself. Oh. And it's not just that one field you requested, it's anything.
That's fantastic, Angela. So no code, low code, you made it happen on the glass. Thank you, Angela. All right, the next class of issues that we're going to address are those pesky, ever-changing regulations and the reports that obviously get tied to them. So to help me do that, please welcome to the stage Louise Farner. So what Louise and I are going to discuss now, again, is another class of problems. These changes, governmental, quasi-governmental agencies, right, that many of you have to deal with on a regular basis. And what are they doing? They're constantly changing their regulations, right? And what does that mean for you? Well, one, if you've got a global footprint, it might mean that you're reporting to various agencies. It might be the same data a lot of times, maybe a little augmented, but it always has a different format, and it's always changing. And again, creating that friction with IT, right, that is a burdened resource. So how can we solve that problem? So to do that, Louise, I'm going to turn to you, and why don't you walk us through real quickly what you did to help us solve that problem?
Okay, thank you, Lyle. I'm going to leverage the data that's in JD Edwards because it's a fabulous repository and we have wonderful applications that facilitate that for our users. And I'm going to combine that with a third-party cloud-based web reporting service and sort of a hybrid model, if you will.
Okay, so a hybrid cloud and these kinds of microservices, these are available by the tens of thousands out there in the open marketplace, right? You can get them through things like GitHub and that sort of thing, right?
Right, and they're very affordable.
Okay, and affordable as well. I think that speaks to many in the audience.
And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the JD Edwards orchestrator to facilitate the handshake, to pass that data from JD Edwards to the cloud reporting service.
Okay.
All right?
Well, great. Why don't you show us what you did?
Okay. So most what I'm doing is automated, so it's basically you're not going to see it. So let me explain what you're going to see. I'm a global safety officer for a large company.
Nice hat.
Mm-hmm. And I have just completed my investigation of an occupational incident. I'm going to use the health and safety realm just as an example of this, okay? And I'm going to use the orchestrator to gather up the JD Edwards data, pass it to the cloud service, which is going to validate my file to make sure it's legitimate. It will return to me a time-sensitive URL that I will use to access their service, where that report will already be populated and available for me to access. So let me show you how that works, Lyle.
Okay, fantastic, Louise.
Okay, so we're going to start with the Health and Safety Incident Master. Health and Safety is a product that's been out there for about 5 years, and we have an incident that I've just finished investigating where a worker jumped off of a forklift and hit her head.
Ouch.
Wasn't wearing her hard hat. So all I have to do is take that incident, that's all the data is now in JD Edwards, and I'm going to send this report to this cloud service. Now what's happening right now, is not a lot to see, is the orchestrator behind the scenes is gathering the data out of JD Edwards and putting it together in a file. I am using a Groovy script.
Okay.
And the Groovy script is going to massage that data into a JSON format in the readable format for the cloud service.
Okay.
That's being sent to them. They have sent me back a time-sensitive URL, and that's been populated in this button. When I click on this, I'm now taken to their web page, their cloud service, where I just simply log in. My data that I sent is over here on the right. It's already been mapped to a particular health and safety form. I simply need to create the PDF, and now it's already put into this form ready to use. Now, this particular incident took place in North America, so in our orchestration call, we sent a request for the OSHA report. If it had happened in New Zealand or Australia or Canada or France or the UK, our orchestration could have sent a request for that version of the form. And let me show you what I mean. So we go back to their site. These are all the different versions of that same information around the world. I don't want my IT department having to create a lot of different versions of this report just because we're a global company. I want to focus instead on making sure the data is in JD Edwards. So they take the brain damage from me of maintaining these formats, creating and maintaining them. I simply need to extract the data with an orchestration and get it to them, and they take it from there.
Fantastic. So summarize and maybe abstract for us a little bit what the folks just saw there.
So I guess at a high level, I automated report generation, okay? I used a combination of the data and the orchestrator in JD Edwards with a cloud service that specializes in this, okay? And we did throw in there a Groovy script just to massage the data into the JSON format.
Okay, so of course, using that methodology, doesn't matter what country you're doing business in, what agency you're doing business with. Doesn't matter if they tweak the format or change it over time. It gives you agility to meet that need. Again, low code, no code kind of way to get there.
Yep, exactly right.
All right, a great class of problem that you've solved there for all of us, Louise. Thank you for making it happen. Okay. No whining about process. Yes. We're actually going to go into the field now. We're actually going to go into the field. So please welcome to the stage our resident winemaker, Mr. Paul Howcooper. Okay, Paul, what we just saw was Orchestrator used to package and send data. First thing that comes to mind is how hard is it to make those orchestrations? And then the next thing is, can a winemaker do it? So I'm going to propose a problem to you that I think exists in your industry. Okay. Look at this. It's a bunch of grapes. It's harvest time. So what do? They go out, they pick all these grapes. They're sitting out in the parking lot. They need to be measured, weighed, tested for sugar quantity, right, before they can be received. And they're sitting in a hot sun, right? These things are going to spoil. Now, you as the winemaker, you send folks out there to actually run these tests, right? And this is what the test looks like, right? And I notice there's a Merlot stain on that test. And it's probably obscuring some of the data that was captured. Now, you probably don't have Merlot stains on your test reports. If you're not in the wine industry, maybe it's grease, right? But these paper reports exist all throughout your business. And then in the winemaking business, of course, you're going to bring that paper back in real quickly. And you're going to put it on the desk of a clerk who's going to put all that information in so we can expedite the receiving process. Oh, but wait, Paul. It's the winemaking industry. So at harvest time, where is everybody?
It's all hands on deck.
All hands on deck out in the field. So what are those paper reports going to do? They're going to sit and wait. Okay? They're going to sit and wait. That's not very agile. It's not very real time. Paul, solve the problem for me.
Absolutely. Well, let me show you how we can do this, and me as a winemaker, take this into my own hands and go ahead and automate this process. All right, so here back in J.D. Edwards, I'm going to sign in, and underneath my sign in, I now have a new option called record a process, and this is our process recorder, which we just delivered in 9224. All right, I'm going to use that today to generate a service request, which I can hook up to any IoT or mobile device to hopefully alleviate this bottleneck that you just described to me, Lyle. So how am I going to do that? Well, let me start the recorder, and let me launch my application. And this process is really as simple as start and stop as I just walk through my daily activity. In this case, I create a blend operation. I enter my header info. I go through. So you're just filling the form as you normally would.
Absolutely. Right, as a user of the system.
Special.
Nothing special.
Except trying to remember what was on that wine stain. I think that was right. And what did we see? 25, 23, something around there. That's a rounding error. We'll go ahead and put it in. Go ahead and save and close. And now I can stop my recording. And I have a service request. So I give the service request a name. That makes sense. Maybe a product code, and I go ahead and save it. Now that I have a service request, I've essentially automated exactly what it is that you just saw. So the next step in the process is to go into our studio, our Orchestrator studio, maybe verify the steps of that process that I just recorded, make sure that it has everything that I saw. So I went in to search for operations. I believe you guys saw that. I went ahead and clicked add there. Now I have operation header. I enter the header information. I have operation detail. That's where I recorded the vessel, I recorded the test results. And then, oh, well, there's this fourth step here. Maybe we didn't see me take a fourth step, but this fourth step is what the recorder did for me. It went ahead and closed the actual application because I forgot to. So process recorder is actually smart enough to make sure that I don't create open-ended service requests.
Nice.
So now that I have that, the next step is to wrap that in an orchestration and maybe expose my inputs for what I expect to get from that mobile device. All right, so let's go ahead and find my... I tried to save us some time today, created an orchestration ahead of time that consumes that form service request. And we gave it some inputs. Let me quickly just show you what that looks like. You can see I brought in the branch, I brought in the vessel, I brought in the result, and in this case I also put device ID in case you're doing some sort of, you've got an IoT device and you want to cross-reference it, I've exposed that as well. And the other thing that you can do through Orchestrator is we have this simple rules engine, and we can actually connect to notifications as well. So I thought, as a winemaker, not only do I want things coming in as efficiently and accurately as possible, but I don't want to have to sign back into the system every time there's a failure. I'd like it to actually notify me. So I went in and added a rule to evaluate those test results as they come in, and anytime they fail, I went ahead and sent myself an actual notification. So let's take a look at what that looks like. We deliver with the studio, the Orchestrator client, and that allows you, after you create these orchestrations with no build or promotion, you have access to this, you pull them up, and you can simulate what it would be like to get this information off an IoT device or mobile device coming in. So I've entered my information, I go ahead and run, and I go back to J.D. Edwards. Let me go ahead and close out. Oh, and as I was doing that, you'll maybe have noticed that up here a second notification came in to let me know that I had a bricks test failure. Let me go ahead and open that up.
Bricks test, that would be that sugar test.
That's that sugar test that we just did, yes.
Okay.
So it tells me what weight tag I got it in on, what the failure was, and actually gives me a link to an app that I can go in and actually now investigate those details and decide what I want to do with the load.
Wow, that's incredible, Paul. So why don't you walk us through this, but abstract it a little bit, because not everybody is a winemaker.
Correct.
So what did we just see?
They're not that lucky.
Yes, not that lucky.
Well, you just saw me use the process recorder to record any daily task that you might be able to do within
Okay, so
Enterprise
as long
One.
as you know how to use the application,
Yes.
you can create an automation.
Absolutely.
And there's no code.
There's no code.
That's incredible, Paul. Yes. Well, I want to thank you so much for making that happen. Mm-hmm. And with that, let's just sample some of your goods here.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you, Paul. All right. So we're actually we like the winemaking industry. It's so much more fun than bikes. So we're actually going to stay in the field, okay? How did all those grapes get there, right? What has to happen to make those grapes and to make them good, juicy grapes? Well, to do that, I'm going to introduce AJ Schifano, who is going to walk us through grapes and not raisins demo. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Lyle.
So real quickly, AJ, how come there are folks here in the front row with ponchos on?
Oh, the lawyers told us we had to give them ponchos.
Oh, good. That makes me feel a lot better.
Okay. So Paul showed us a whole truckload of sweet, juicy grapes, but those grapes aren't so juicy if the vineyard is not irrigated properly. So what we're going to go through is a little story about how we can teach J.D. Edwards to collect data, make a smart decision, and then do something in the context of a vineyard. Now, what we see here is a graphical representation of some historical data. The interesting thing here is this is not data that's contained in J.D. Edwards transaction tables. We're actually collecting data and storing it in a third-party database. We happen to use MySQL. Then we're pulling that data in and graphing it in an external form. So this is a pretty cool demonstration of the power of J.D. Edwards to show both transactional data and external data. Now, unfortunately, we are not in the middle of a vineyard, so I will be using some simulators, right? But we've got the simulator which is detecting the moisture level in the soil, and we're going to pretend like we just registered a low moisture condition. Now, this IoT device, it's internet connected, so it just sent some data to J.D. Edwards and created this operation. Now, we've got some really good applications for grower management, and here we are in the creating a irrigation operation. And you see we have a bunch of historical irrigation operations that are already finished, but without doing anything. That was not me creating this operation. The IoT device in the field itself created this new irrigation operation, and we can see that it's active. Now, over time, we'll have a bunch of these sort of scheduled, queued up operations. And what we're going to do now is pretend like we have these on a scheduler, and once a day, twice a day, once an hour, whatever you decide, we're going to run this scheduler. And again, without human interaction, we can see that this operation has changed from active to actual. And what that means is when we're going to talk backwards from J.D. Edwards through the orchestrator to this irrigation system. And at this point, we actually turn the sprinklers on.
Do you feel like you're in church?
Right. And so at this point, the sprinkles will go on for some predetermined amount of time, and then the irrigation system will send another orchestration back to J.D. Edwards indicating that the cycle is complete. Operation's finished. We go back to look at our J.D. Edwards application, and again, we can see that that irrigation operation itself has finished. So we've gone all the way through the process of a sprinkler deciding that the irrigation needed to turn on, J.D. Edwards making a smart decision, and all of that data from the field in real time being updated into the J.D. Edwards application without human intervention.
Wow, that's fantastic, AJ. So again, we're not all so lucky to be working in the wine industry out in the field. So can you tell us what we just saw, but abstract it up a layer, and what else we could do with this kind of technology?
Yeah, what we just saw is J.D. Edwards collecting data, making a smart decision, and doing something, all without human intervention. Nobody was involved with this process except for the people who got wet. So completely automated.
Okay. So, AJ, what role do you play in my organization?
I thought you knew. I'm a product manager.
Okay, another product manager, so not a lot of coding going on.
No, not a lot of coding going on, although I'm not a developer, but I did get a B in Fortran in 1981.
Oh, that'll serve you real well.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, wait a minute. Now, you didn't do that all yourself. You got a little help.
That is true. In this case, I did get by with a little help from my friends because the decision to irrigate was not a simple true or false. We collected data, moisture content from the soil. What you did not see is a real-time call out to a weather service to see if it's going to rain and what the predicted temperature was going to be. So this was sort of a complex decision on the part of J.D. Edwards to say, you know, I don't want to turn the irrigation system on if it's going to rain anyway. So fairly complex. We did some groovy scripting. Groovy's
okay, that's the second time I've heard that now, groovy.
Groovy.
So what is that?
It's a scripting language. It's a lot like Java. We've built it right into the orchestrator. So if the rules engine that we've shipped with the orchestrator is not sort of, you know, beefed up enough to make a decision, programmers can do whatever they want.
So, but industry standard code.
Open source,
right?
well-known
Open source,
skills.
well-known, lots of resource, lots of millennials coming to the office place could probably throw some of this groovy code for us, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Not difficult.
Well, with that, AJ, I want to thank you for helping us make that happen.
Thanks.
Okay, so what if you're in a dentist chair? Or more appropriately, what if you're up here on the stage at Collaborate 18, but you also have operational responsibilities, right? So you actually are a stakeholder in a key process back at the office. Well, I can't get to my J.D. Edwards, of course, unless I go to one of these demo stands, but I'm sitting out here. How do I handle that? Oh, wait a minute, that's an audible tone. Well, of course, you get a notification that can make you aware of what's going on back at the office and also extend J.D. Edwards so that you can interact with it from wherever, from whatever, any device. So to help us through that, please welcome to the stage Karen Brown, who's going to tell us more about notifications.
Thanks, Lyle. So notification is our newest personalization framework out there to allow you to create notifications about any kind of event in your system or externally.
Yeah, so for me, I got my new tablet.
Exactly. So you could get a notification.
I'm going to go work on that while you explain more.
Okay. So they're all user configurable, again, with the framework. You can deliver them anywhere, and anybody can subscribe to them if you give them the ability to subscribe. And we just have a few examples of the types of notifications that you can actually receive. It's up to you what kind of notifications you want. So let me show you a little bit about them. You've seen some teasers on this throughout this keynote so far. First thing is, here's what the email looks like that Lyle got. You can't quite see from his phone, it's a little too small. But he basically, a simple
Plus it's
email.
a 10, it has facial recognition, so it doesn't recognize you.
So a very simple email telling him that his purchase order is there, and also with the ability to act upon it, can take a link and go to the application and see exactly where it's at and who might have it, actually. So that's that, and we'll go and look at what it looks like inside of J.D. Edwards. We now have this new bell up in the top, and with the number is how many unread notifications you have. So let's go look and see how that works. So we have 2 unread ones here. We've got the one that Lyle received where his tablet has been received, and we can take the link right there to get into the application. And it's a tablet. It's very important to Lyle.
It is very important.
Very important to Lyle. But what if you're a maintenance manager and you have a critical piece of equipment down out on your floor and you're waiting for a part? Okay, the notifications take on a different meaning at that point, right? Very, very important, okay? You don't have to sit at your desk and wait and keep checking over and over and over again to see if that part has been received. You get the notification wherever you are, and you'll know that it's there, and you can go get your production back up and going. So that's how you work with your notifications. Let me show you how you subscribe. Very, very easy to subscribe. We now have a new thing called My Subscriptions, and you're able to see all the things that you have currently subscribed to. And because notifications are personalized, depending upon what you need, depends upon what you do when you subscribe to it. When we look at Lyle's notification for his tablet, he just needed to provide to us the purchase order that his tablet was on, and then we gave him some tickler text so that when the notification popped up on his phone, he knew what it was. What if he was waiting for a tablet and a phone and something else? He would know which notification it is he's seeing. And this is all defined by the person who creates the notification.
Okay.
It's all very, very personalizable. To add a new notification, a subscription, you just hit that button, and you see this long, long list here. We not only delivered a really good notification framework for you to use, we have provided over 35 pre-configured notifications.
Wow, 35. How did we get all those done?
The product management team did it, Lyle.
So I have product managers building and shipping code now?
It's not code, it's personalization.
Oh, I get it.
Okay. That's how easy it is. But there's 35 of them that you can use. You can use them straight out of the box. People can subscribe to them. You can personalize them yourselves to make them a little bit closer to your business, or just to seed ideas for new ones for yourself.
Or you can just create your own.
Or you can create your own.
Okay.
Absolutely. And to subscribe, it's very simple. You just select it and provide whatever inputs that the designer of this notification is requiring. So I can say I want to look for my G-type batches that are in error and determine what my delivery method is. So I can have it come on the bell, which is a notification list. I can have it go to my work center if I'm in there all the time. And I can also use email. I can send it as an email, and you can also send it as a text through email.
Wow.
So you can receive that as well.
Powerful.
So notifications are very powerful, and they're very, very easy to use.
Fantastic. So just real quickly, walk us through what we just saw.
Well, you just saw how the notification framework can keep you informed and keep you going, and no matter where you're at. And it's built into J.D. Edwards' very, very simple framework.
So it's proactive ERP.
Proactive ERP, absolutely.
Thank you for making that happen, Karen. All right. So now what you've seen up to now is a bunch of these low-code, no-code frameworks that we use to solve particular problems. What I'd like to do is take a step back and look at a whole process, end-to-end, and how we can use some of our frameworks along with some cloud-based services. I'm going to leave Karen up here, but to help us with that, please welcome to the stage Keith Scholes. Keith, why don't you walk us through what you're going to show us?
Absolutely, yeah. So what our team did is we looked at this larger process of procure to pay. And as you know, procure to pay, in that process you create purchase orders, you engage with your suppliers. Your suppliers ship and invoice you, you receive goods and voucher. Fairly straightforward, but it is a very time-consuming and manual process. It's very paper-based. There's a lot of there's manual transactions. People are keying in transactions in a lot of your
So a lot of back and forth and a lot of friction in the process.
A lot of friction.
Okay.
In fact, the supplier and the buyer are very disconnected, and there's a lot of time wondering, did the supplier see the PO? Are they going to ship it?
Gotcha.
When are they going to ship it? There's all these challenges. So our team put together a demo to try to solve those problems and to show you what process automation can look like.
Fantastic. Let's take a look. Oh, I need some coffee because I've been up here drinking wine and I need to dry out a little bit.
That's a good thing because I work for Supremo Coffee and we've got plenty.
Oh, great.
There you go. So at Supremo Coffee, we have a hard time keeping track of when do we need to buy more beans so we can make that coffee. Somebody's always having to go out and check on it. So we use J.D. Edwards, and with all of their new features, we were able to do something really neat and make it easier on our business. So now our bags of beans sit on little mats that keep track of the weight. And when they get less than 30 pounds, we use the orchestrator to automatically create a purchase order inside of J.D. Edwards. So now we don't have to have somebody out there doing that. And what's really nice, because this is automated, as a procurement buyer, when that purchase order is created, I get a notification that that purchase order has been created and it needs me to approve it. Because it's a machine again, right? Ordering the beans. So from that notification, I'm actually able to go directly into the application, review that purchase order, and approve it. And along with this, when I approve it, it'll automatically print that purchase order and place it on the supplier portal for the supplier that I've asked to supply that. And that's using orchestrations again.
So over at the supplier, then the supplier gets an email saying that there's a PO waiting for him to take a look at. So he clicks on that link, takes him directly into the supplier portal. He's got his PO sitting right there in front of him. You can take a look at that, say, yes, yep, this makes sense to me. I'm going to deliver this. So clicks on acknowledgement and OK.
So now that it's been acknowledged, I receive a notification. So I know that the supplier is actually going to supply those beans to us. And along with that, I not only know that it's been acknowledged from my notification, it's automatically updated the statuses on the purchase order so that I know that it is.
So back at the supplier, it's time for me to ship. It's very simple. I pull up my PO in the supplier portal, go into it and say I'm going to ship it. Click on ship. I enter my invoice information, invoice number. I attach the invoice, and then simply upload, and that's all I need to do.
And now that that's been done, as a procurement buyer, I receive another notification. So I'm notified along the way as things have been happening, and I now know that these things are going to be shipped. And along with the procurement buyer, the AP manager will receive another email that there's an invoice out there waiting. And from that email, they're able to take a link, go in and view the invoice that's there, along with the image of the invoice that actually came from the supplier, and have the ability to approve that invoice. And when it is approved, through an orchestration, it'll automatically take all that data, load it into J.D. Edwards, and get it ready for the voucher match automation process.
Wow. So, Keith, abstract it a bit for us, but tell us what we just saw.
Yeah, so we took that entire procure-to-pay process and we automated the whole thing outside of a couple of approvals. I mean, so it's from a process perspective, this is now greatly simplified. We did that using notifications, orchestrations, Content Cloud, and Process Cloud.
So our out-of-the-box frameworks along with a few cloud services, and you guys were able to sort of orchestrate an end-to-end process there, right? Automating most of it,
yep,
and really turning yourselves into a digital business where you created a digital mesh in the value chain between the supplier and the user of those beans, right?
Absolutely. Now we can focus on exceptions and better supplier relationships.
All right. Well, that's fantastic. I want to thank you guys for stitching that all together and making it happen. But wait a minute, Karen. Stay here on the stage with me for a moment because something just troubled me. Okay, so I got it. That was automation, end-to-end, digital business, value chain, right? But in the real world, that was just one voucher, one supplier. That's not the way it always works, right? Especially as you get at, end of the cycle, right? You've got to close out the business. You're probably inundated with invoices and vouchers, and you got big batches you have to process, right? Is there any automation that we could potentially apply to that problem?
Absolutely. Absolutely. J.D. Edwards, we're always looking for new things. What's the next thing that's going to help our customers? And what we've been exploring is the concept of a chatbot or an intelligent bot, getting the system to assist us, and not just in the background by itself, when we ask. And with chatbots, the idea behind it, there's some machine learning that can be applied, let the system learn and teach itself what it should be doing, and also the whole concept of a conversation with natural language processing. So I can actually talk to a chatbot and have them be my assistant.
Okay.
What's really nice, of course, we are Oracle, and right in our backyard, Oracle Mobile Cloud Enterprise has a new product called Intelligent
Hey,
Bots.
we're certified to that. We use that for our mobile apps.
Yes.
How convenient.
So now we have another feature that we've been looking at, and we've built a prototype using the intelligent bots that I'd love to show you.
Please show us what this looks like.
So let's put this into context. So Keith and I were up here and we showed how you got the whole front part of the accounts payable process done, but at the end of the month, again, we have that just inundated with information that has to be handled. So what we've done is we've prototyped a very small portion, and that is around the review, approval, and post of those voucher batches that come through. So let me show you what it looks like.
Okay.
Okay, so within J.D. Edwards, I'd like to introduce you to Edward. He is my assistant. He
I recognize that little wolf pup.
Isn't he great?
He's great.
Yeah, it's our little pup. He's my assistant, and he's gonna help me out. If you notice, we have a watch list that shows that I have 31 voucher batches that need to be approved. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna talk to him. Of course, I'm gonna type for him at this point. I'm gonna ask him if he will please process my vouchers. So we've taught Edward how to process vouchers. And he's gone out and he's looked. He wants to verify, Karen, I found 31. Do you really want me to do this? Yeah, I really want you to do that. And he's going to go off and perform the process we've taught him. He's going to review the vouchers to see if it's appropriate. And just like any assistant or any person in an organization, everybody has their limits, right? I can't approve a purchase order over $1 million. Well, Edward has the same type of limitations. So he's gone through and he's reviewed the vouchers. He's found one he cannot approve because it's above his limit. So he's going to leave that to me. So he's like my assistant helping me out there. And I can even go in and review that voucher if I'd like. He gives me a link. He monitored my post process and discovered that there's one of the vouchers as well that has an error and it cannot post. So that's very important for me to take care of right now. And all along the way, you'll notice the watch list all changed. Okay, so everything's kind of integrated with J.D. Edwards. So having an assistant like this is amazing for anybody at any point, right?
Wow, that is really incredible. So what did we see, and what else is this really applicable to?
Okay, what you really saw was that whole concept of a two-way conversation. Right? We didn't do a lot of talking, right? But there was a two-way conversation between me and the bot, and going off and doing things. We utilized the intelligent bots through Oracle Mobile Cloud and Enterprise One orchestrations. Right?
So you actually trained that bot to both respond to your natural language, whatever you referred to things as, but you also trained it in the vouchering process and how it could clear that cache for you, right? And also service up those exceptions.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? So sort of taking the robot out of you as the AP manager and giving it to our little wolf pup.
Absolutely. Now I only have to deal with the exceptions. I can move on, and we can get our financial period closed a lot faster if I've got some assistance.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, thank you, Karen, for making that happen. Okay, so what you saw was real. We're using J.D. Edwards along with another Oracle service, the Mobile Cloud Enterprise. And by doing that, we were able to create a digital twin for our AP manager, and that was Edward. Now, this is a world that we're moving into quickly. And in fact, this is something that the team at JD Edwards has been working on for some time. The building blocks that we have been putting out into the marketplace, the user experience personalization, that orchestration that can drive automation, as well as integration to cloud services, right? Adding intelligence into the system. We've been doing that by design because we're entering an age where we have assisted ERP, where we can actually have these intelligent bots that can take a lot of the drudge work off of our plates and free up human capacity to do the things that human capacity is good at doing. So that's not where it ends, right? That's just where we are today. Yes, we trained Edward about the rules associated with voucher processing in the purchasing arena. But what if we could point Edward at the data? The data that we house in JD Edwards, those years and years of transactions that you've created. Could Edward be smart enough to review that data and to spot patterns? He might actually be able to tell how we treat certain suppliers, where the limits are, how different vouchers are accepted or ones that are cleared. Yes, that is the world of machine learning. And so we're on the cusp of something very huge here. Robotic process automation, chatbots, machine learning are going to create ERP with artificial intelligence to help us address business issues and business processes. Yes, ERP is also going to move to a place where the system admin on the back end will be more autonomic. But more importantly, where the real value is in our business processes and offloading to the machines what machines can do better than humans and freeing up that human capacity for us all to create, to innovate, to share, and to thrive. This is what we've been referring to recently as autonomous ERP, and that future is not far away. And in fact, with the building blocks that we're delivering in JD Edwards, we would argue this community will be one of the first communities to enjoy autonomous ERP. So with that, I have a challenge for you. Just as I challenged my team for this keynote, I'm going to ask you to go to Learn JDE, download the documents that we provided, go look at the sessions this week, the education that we're delivering on how you can make it happen using personalization, using orchestration, and using these new lighter weight REST APIs as an integration vehicle. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go back to your teams, and I'm going to ask you to be creative. Because we have another conference coming up, and it comes up in August in Denver, and it's called In Focus. How many of you attend In Focus or have team members that attend In Focus? Let's take a quick look. Okay, so a good portion of you. And if you haven't checked out In Focus, I think it's worthwhile. It's a very hands-on event. So at this year's In Focus, I'm putting out an Ideathon challenge to this community to come back and blow my socks off with what you can do with the capabilities that we have delivered to you. So go back, ideate, create, innovate, using our tools, because together, this future that we just showed you at the end of this presentation, together we can make that happen. I want to thank you for coming to this keynote session. I want to remind you that we purposely didn't do the roadmap here because you need to go to the roadmap session. It's actually at 1:15, and that's hosted by Bob Monahan and Gary Grayshaber, who are my product management and product strategy leaders. And then I will also encourage you to go to a little deeper dive in the tools area, and that's what's new with JD Edwards Tools, and that's at Tuesday at 9:45 hosted by Mr. Jeff Erickson, who's a member of our technical and architecture product management team. So with that, I want to thank you for coming today. Please enjoy the conference, suck it all in, get great information, and go back and let's make it happen. Thank you.
I hope that you like this, but you probably won't. You think you're cooler than me. You got designer shades just to hide.